watching us on QSportsTalk.com. You see our first guest today live and in person. So pleased to be joined by the head coach of Colgate football, Curt Fitzpatrick, joining us. Coach, great to have you on. Thanks for joining us. How are you today?
I'm good. Planning our last practice for the week before game day, and thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Well, we appreciate you coming on. We know that you're a busy man, and you're getting ready to face Syracuse, your first Power 4 opponent as a head coach. And we know you've got a job to do this week, and it's all about getting the players ready and getting the team ready to compete. Can we start with you, though, individually? I mean, can you explain to us, I guess, the emotions you're going through, being a local guy growing up in Fulton and being able to, coach a game inside the Dome and have your program here? What does this mean to you and your family?
Yeah, it's obviously a really cool experience. Growing up in Fulton and, growing up a Syracuse fan and, pretending to be Syracuse players playing tackle football in the backyard as kids. It's pretty neat to be able to coach a game in the Dome against Syracuse. So it's I'm sure there'll be some moments, running out of the tunnel or during a TV timeout or, whatever it is. My wife and kids will be able to be down the field in pregame. And so it's cool. But like you mentioned, I have a job to do, and I want to do the best I can for my players and make sure I maximize their experience in this game. But it's growing up a Syracuse fan. It's a really cool moment. And one of our alums, Greg Hadley, who's a CBA alum. I don't know if you know Greg. He played linebacker at Colgate, and he and I were texting back and forth this morning about being a kid that grew up in Central New York. He played at Colgate, but never played Syracuse in that 4-year span that he was here. So Syracuse and Colgate have played, I think, 70 times or close. With the first one being in the 1890s. So long history and just cool to play this game against obviously a really talented Syracuse team.
You mentioned the history. You mentioned the series. Why is this such an important game for Colgate? What does Colgate football get out of this game?
I think like playing on ACC network is huge for us. I think the exposure. I think our alumni love it. I think Colgate football's DNA is to play bigger schools, and they've been doing that for years. The 1932 Colgate team was unbeaten, untied, unscored upon, and ultimately uninvited to the Rose Bowl. That was, college football was a lot different back in those days, obviously. But Colgate has always been a place that had a chip on its shoulder and liked to play bigger teams. And so this is in that same ilk. And like I mentioned, the college football landscape's a lot different than it even was in the 90s and the 80s. But I think that there's a lot of benefit for Colgate, for me personally in this season, in this moment, in this week, it's a great test for us. And I think, being a new coach here, I think we have a lot of improving to do. We played 2 top 25 FCS teams in our first 2 games, and I feel like we're getting better as a program. This is the biggest challenge that we'll have all year, obviously, playing a team in the ACC. And I'm excited to see what our players can do. It'll give me, a chance to see them compete in a loud, raucous environment, and give me a chance to evaluate. And I just want to see us play as hard as we possibly can. And so there's a lot of value. There's not a lot of downside. I'm excited. Our players are excited, and we get to play our conference game, start our Patriot League play next week against Fordham. But for this week, we get to play against one of the best teams in the country, and that's a great thing for us.
Yeah, you're certainly going to be battle tested going into that conference opener. You just touched on the fact that you played 2 top 25 opponents at the FCS level in games 1 and 2, both 1-score games. They didn't go your way, but as you said, competitive. You're right there. What did you learn about your team through those first 2 games?
And I learned a ton, and being new with these guys. Obviously, I got hired last December, and going through spring ball, you get to know the guys and build some bonds with them. But going into that first game, we played on a Friday night at home against Monmouth, who had the number 1 offense in the FCS last year, and bringing everybody back. And I just didn't know what our competitive character was going to be. They had never seen me coach in a game. I had never seen our players play in a game. And man, I'm encouraged after those first two games. We had a sizable lead against Monmouth. We knew they were explosive. We were able to force turnovers in the first half. In the second half, they connected on some big plays, and we had our quarterback went down to injury, and we had some things, and we just let it slip away. We needed one or two more plays. And then in week 2, we came back against the 12th ranked team in FCS in Villanova, on the road. Villanova, that was their first game of the season. And, we were in a 1-score game in the fourth quarter. We're just a little bit short. But I think we're learning how to play in tight games. This is something that, that we need to build. We need to build our poise, playing in tough environments, playing against great opponents, and just keeping it small and executing the play you're in. And so I learned a lot about that. We're getting a lot better. We're making progress, and hopefully win, lose or draw tomorrow night, we're going to learn a lot more about our team that we can build on as the season goes on.
You touched on your quarterback, and it's a shame he had to leave that Monmouth game. He was 11 for 14, 78% completion percentage, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Had another 2 touchdown passes against Villanova, no picks. What can you tell us about your quarterback in Zach Osborne and what he brings to the table for your team?
Zach, he's a cool customer. Was a unanimous selection for a captain for our team, and I'm happy for him that he gets a chance to go out there and play. He was the starting quarterback here for a stretch in 2023, and broke his wrist against Georgetown in a game. Came back last year, didn't really have the zip on the ball because of the injury, but was used in more of a running quarterback. He's a dual threat guy. Broke his collarbone, I believe, against Georgetown again. So he's got some bad luck against Georgetown, and so he hasn't really been able to stay healthy and play. And now he, in a quarterback battle, won the starting job for us. Our team believes in him. He's a dual threat guy, but he's just a great leader. He has great presence on the field, and really makes. He's a coach out on the field, and so his ability to distribute the ball is his strength. And he's done a great job making great decisions through really a game and a half, because he really only played the first half against Monmouth. So, again, will be a challenge for him to manage things out there tomorrow night in the dome. But adversity only makes us better. So yeah, he's the leader of our team, and happy that he's playing for us.
From a personnel perspective, Trayvon Saunders also jumps off the page. 360 receiving yards already and 3 touchdowns. Tell us a little bit about him and other guys that we need to keep our eyes on tomorrow night.
I think offensively, Trey's the guy that he gets things started for us offensively. Tremendous player. Had 88 catches last year as a junior, which was second in all of FCS, and was such a great kid. Another captain. Will be Colgate's all-time leading receiver once his senior year is over here. And I really appreciate Trey. He could play at a lot of places. He could be an FBS player easily. He values the education he's receiving here at Colgate, and I believe he has a real chance at playing beyond Colgate, playing at the next level. And I'm looking forward to seeing him play. I think he can. He won't look out of place out there on Friday night. He's a short guy, not the tallest receiver on the field, but he has elite quickness and makes tough catches and is great with the ball in his hands after the catch. So I'm sure he'll be the focal point of the Syracuse defensive effort, as he should be. But I think Trey, I'm excited to see him play. He needs to be challenged. I think this type of game will bring out his best and make him play. Raise his level of play, and that's what we all need to do.
You're obviously very familiar with this Syracuse program. When you watch them on film and actually prepare to play them, and not just kind of casually watching them, but looking at them analytically and how you're going to go about trying to attack and stop them and so on and so forth. What stands out to you about this Syracuse team? The offensive side of the ball, I think, and I know they graduated a lot and lost a lot of guys from last year's team, but just the depth of playmakers on the outside, couple New York guys in Ross Simmons, and Dan Villari,
the size of the running back. 6'6" is a really, really big, strong back. Like those are the types of backs that we don't see every week. We see big guys or we see fast guys, but rarely do you see the combination of big, strong, and fast all in one back. So, we've got to run to the ball and tackle well. And I think the quarterback, I know he's new to the program, and you can just see his progression from 1 week to the next, his confidence, and I expect him to keep playing better and better as the year goes on. Defensively, I've been very impressed with their front, the defensive line. A lot of guys, you watch tape from last year, you've seen a lot of the same guys out there this year, making plays up front. I know they're a little younger at linebacker, and some of the players in the secondary, especially due to some injuries, but so much talent and so much speed and athleticism. I've been impressed on the film watching number 2, Chestnut, on the back end of their defense. You can tell the leadership role he has and how much he's played. He's kind of the quarterback of the defense, and does a lot of the communicating, it seems, on the back end, and very, very impressive player. So, lots of challenges. Same thing on special teams. Some great specialists. So it's a challenge to prepare for, but it's fun. It's fun. It's fun for us to prepare, for a game like this. And what I told our team yesterday is, let's take it one play at a time and play as hard as we possibly can. I don't want to place limits on our team. I don't want to, be worried about the outcome of the game or the score. I want to play our best. If we play our best, then we will, the score will be whatever it's meant to be, one way or the other. But we're going to be input focused and prepare as good as we can and make sure that we play our best on Friday night.
Curt Fitzpatrick joining us here on Orange Nation for another few minutes. And, Coach, one of the things that has come up this week with you guys preparing to play Syracuse is the fact that you and Fran Brown had some conversations in the offseason about you potentially joining his staff. What can you tell us about that? And, I guess how the timing played out, the Colgate thing, popped up and you wanted to be a head coach and you went there. How real was it that, how close did you come to come in here? What was the position? And I guess, can you kind of walk us through what happened in the offseason?
I'll let you know that my phone blew up after Coach Brown's press conference the other day, and so I had to go back and I knew something came up in the press conference. But yeah, Coach, have a lot of respect for Coach Fran, and everything was kind of happening simultaneously as we were going through our NCAA playoff run at Cortland last year, and he reached out with some potential interest on the staff. I was flattered by that. Definitely interested. And the Colgate opening was open at the same time and kind of going simultaneously. And Coach Fran, he was very gracious, and he gave me a call after the news broke that I had accepted the job at Colgate as a head coach, and he was happy for me and for the opportunity, and definitely was something that I was considering. I just love being a head coach, and I love the opportunity at Colgate. This is a special place, and a place that I growing up in a small town in Fulton, raising my family here in Hamilton. I've got 3 young kids, and Hamilton's just a great place to raise a family. So excited to be here at Colgate, but. Yeah, things, Coach Brown, I have a lot of respect for him. Obviously, the way what he stands for, how he coaches his team, it's very admirable, and would have been very happy to join his staff at Cuse. But ultimately, I love being a head coach, and this opportunity was a great one for my family and I.
And you're very good at being a head coach as well, and you won a national title, of course, at SUNY Cortland recently, and then that helped to, open the door to this Colgate job. Curious, what the differences are between those levels, right? I mean, you obviously coached at a very high level in Division III. Now you're at the FCS level. Are there drastic differences, or is coaching? Is it pretty much the same? And was it a seamless transition for you?
I think. So someone asked me this earlier this week. We had just played Villanova in a tight game. I'll say the football, the X's and the O's, playing, going through the our national championship run, you're playing great coaches and great players every week. And, playing in games where the talent level is about the same. Like the football isn't much different. The players are bigger, faster, and stronger on both teams. And so that's fun to me to coach guys that are, elite athletes. The difference is just the scope of the operation. Division I program. There's more people. There's just more that goes on. Alumni involvement, fundraising, stuff like that. And then there's another level to it. Getting at the FBS level that we don't deal with at the FCS. So there's the scope of the program. The scope of recruiting, going from recruiting regionally at Cortland to nationally at Colgate, the Colgate brand academically stretches far and wide. And so, going from coast to coast and the national roster is a change for me, and one that's exciting. And I've really enjoyed that part of it. At the end of the day, when you draw the plays on the whiteboard, it's the same X's and O's. Going against great coaches every single week, is a challenge, and one that I'm excited about. That part of coaching has always been what makes it the most interesting for me, is the schematic, the chess match. I love that part of it, and developing players and making sure that we mentor them from the time they're 18 years old to the time they're 22 or 23 years old and graduate. That part's the same no matter where you coach, and the impact that you have on the lives of the young men in our program. So all that stuff's the same. It's just the D1 lifestyle in terms of the scope of the program and all that stuff is a bit different, but fun all in the same.
It makes a lot of sense. And, Coach, you've been very gracious with your time. I just got one more for you. As you look ahead to tomorrow night, in terms of laying out a blueprint for us with how you guys go about attacking this and being competitive. And you touched on a little bit earlier about, we got to make sure that we tackle well. What are some other things that you're going to be preaching to your team, in that locker room tomorrow night before you take the field for a 7 o'clock kickoff?
Yeah. I think in any big game, and this is a big game for us. And, being in this type of environment, you have to control your emotions. And I use the phrase emotionally drunk with our team. You can't be emotionally drunk in a game like this. We have to be focused on our job, on the job that you have. You're 1/11th on every play, and play with a clear mind. If one play at a time. If we're going to have success on any given rep in this game, we have to be 11 guys need to focus on doing their part and do it with every ounce of effort and ability that we have. If we do that, then we will have success on some plays, and Syracuse will obviously have some success on plays too. And we got to play as hard as we can, take it one play at a time, ignore the scoreboard. These are lessons we learned in our first game against Monmouth. We needed to ignore the scoreboard, even though we were ahead. Ignore the scoreboard and just play the rep you're in and play it at a championship level. We got to do the same thing tomorrow night. The recipe for success in football doesn't change by the circumstance, who and when you're playing. You got to lock in and have a laser focus at the play you're in. And we got to play clean football. If we're committing a bunch of penalties and turning the ball over and missing tackles on the perimeter, then, it doesn't matter who you're playing, you're not going to have much success. So, we know that Syracuse is going to challenge us with their athleticism, and, they're going to be well prepared and well coached. And so, we got to make sure that we play like I said earlier, we play our very best.
Coach, I got to tell you, it's been a pleasure covering you these last several years. We've got a lot of respect for the job that you do. Keep up the good work. Best of luck tomorrow night. Best of luck throughout the rest of the season, and we do appreciate you for your time today.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me on. Thanks for covering Colgate football. Really appreciate it.